Weird things millionaire buys. Now tell me, if you have billions of dollars, would you buy some of these things?
These are the weirdest things billionaires actually buy. Like this $500 million full-size Titanic replica, this $55 million beer made in space.
First, you're gonna buy a $500 million replica of Titanic that you can't even go on.
And this $1 million dwarf throwing contest. But first, let's talk about how Bill Gates spent $50K just to be a kid again, because he really turned an entire room in his mansion into a trampoline park. I just can't imagine this old-ass billionaire jumping around like a child. But $50K is nothing to a billionaire, so things are about to get way more expensive. Like the time a billionaire spent over $100,000 on a banana? Believe it or not, this fruit duct taped to a wall is actually considered a piece of art. And after it sold for $120K, a dude straight up ripped it off the wall and ate it.
Bro.
But this next billionaire brought his dog back from the dead.
Bro.
Yeah, this dude loved his dead dog so much, he figured out how to get it cloned. But just one dog wasn't enough. So he cloned his dead dog twice for $200,000. Something about that just feels wrong. But not as wrong as a billionaire's purchase, that cost him his life. Hamish Harding wasn't like most billionaires. He's done things people couldn't even dream of doing, like flying around the world in a record 46 hours, exploring the South Pole with his son, and taking a rocket to space. But Harding still had one more thing in his bucket list: seeing the Titanic. So once he heard the company OceanGate was taking people to see it, he immediately dropped $250K on a submarine ticket. But little did he know, it would be the biggest mistake of his life. Because this submarine was built by a dumbass. Not only was this thing piloted with a video game controller, it was made out of carbon fiber, one of the worst materials you can use on a sub. So when the day came, Harding and 4 other people descended into the ocean, and I think we all know what happened. The sub imploded instantly, taking the lives of everyone on board. But for some unknown reason, the media ran with the idea that the crew was trapped for days, and that they needed to be rescued. That's definitely a little fishy. But he wasn't the only billionaire obsessed with submarines, because Richard Branson decided to make his own submarine too. Except Branson owns an entire airline company, so he got his airplane engineers to make an underwater plane for $662,000. Turns out Branson spent that much because he planned on doing a record dive to the Mariana Trench. But right before he could even try, James Cameron beat him to it. Now that's a big waste of money. But what this next billionaire buys is actually just messed up. Because Saudi Prince Al Walid buys little people and holds contests to see who can throw them the furthest. It's literally like the Olympic weight throwing contest, but instead of weights, it's little people. He said he views them as jesters and pays a bunch of them a salary every year, totaling around $1 million. And he makes them do some weird stuff. Like one time, he couldn't decide which private jet to buy, the Airbus or the Boeing. So he had 2 little people each say one of the jets, and whichever jet sounded the funniest, he would buy it. And if you're wondering, he ended up buying the Airbus. Another time, he threw a stack of $100 bills into a campfire and had a bunch of little people try to get him out. Now that's really weird, but Elon Musk spent $1 million on something a little different. Elon bought a car that can turn into a submarine. Look, I don't know what this billionaire fetish for submarines is, but it's the same car used in the James Bond movie, and I'm just as surprised as you that it actually works. But one billionaire spent over $2 million on a piece of paper? This is Billy the Kid, a famous outlaw from the 1800s, and I guess this billionaire has something for criminals. So he bought one of the only pics of this dude for $2.3 million. But that's still not as weird as the lady who spent millions of dollars just to look like a cat. Right after
$2+ million for a little picture of some guy.
Justin Wildenstein divorced her husband, she received $2.5 billion, and they definitely should have signed a prenup, because she really used that money to turn herself into a cat. Yeah, she used to look good, but after years of plastic surgery, this is her now. She's literally nicknamed Catwoman after spending a total of $4 million on plastic surgery. And she really turned into a crazy cat lady, because by 77 years old, she was left with $0 in her bank account. How do you even lose that much money? But what if I told you that someone spent even more just to smell some ass?
Well, that one was blocked off quick.
ass. And not just any ass. Marilyn Monroe's ass. One of the most famous women ever. See, she wore this dress to President Kennedy's birthday party. But after she passed away, it came out that the dress was worn without any underwear. So this creepy-ass billionaire scooped it up for $4.8 million just so he could smell it. But this next billionaire wasted $8 million a ticket he didn't even use. Because after Jeff Bezos auctioned off a ticket to space, billionaire Ken Griffin just had to win it. But after he paid the $8 million, dude got cold feet and gave it to someone else instead. Honestly, after OceanGate, I don't blame him for not trusting some hunk of metal with enough explosives to send you into space. But that's not the only time a billionaire spent millions just to lose it all. Because when you own a private island, you might as well carve your name into it. Each of these letters is 2 miles long, so you could literally see them from space. But only a couple years later, the name washed away, losing him $22 million. And somehow, Bill Gates bought scribbles in a book worth more than that. Of course, it's not just any book. It's by the famous artist Leonardo da Vinci. And da Vinci was pretty weird. In this notebook, he wrote from right to left. And it's not like people during his time did that. Nah, he was the only one. And I guess that intrigued Bill, because he bought the notebook for $30 million, making it the most expensive book in history. But that's nothing compared to a beer that's literally helping kids beat cancer. Because billionaire Jared Isaacman was tired of beer that was brewed on Earth, so he needed something a little more out of this world. So he copped a SpaceX flight for $55 million to brew a beer in space. He actually brewed about 3,000 gallons of it, and you could buy some right now for yourself in Boston. But since this was a viral stunt, they couldn't let the attention go to waste. So they used the views to raise funds for St. Jude, which helps kids beat cancer and other life-threatening illnesses. And after they raised over $150 million, Elon Musk donated $50 million on top of that, raising a total of over $200 million.
Awesome. I like
that beer would make the world a better place. But this next billionaire has the weirdest and creepiest purchase yet. Because after Jeffrey Epstein died, Stefan Dekhoff decided he wanted to buy the Pedo Islands. Now that alone is just a red flag, but it gets even worse, because he plans to turn the island's mansions into a hotel. I want people to sleep at night knowing what went down in there. These islands were originally selling for $125 million, but this guy must have gotten the friends and family discount, because he bought both the islands for $60 million. That's just sketchy, man. But Cecil Chow spent double that amount on something you'll never believe. Because after he found out his daughter was lesbian, he offered $65 million to any dude that could turn her straight. But after thousands of guys failed, Chow started getting desperate. So he decided to double his offer to $120 million. But this next billionaire spent even more on a—
Send her my way. Send her my— not cheat. What? Send her my way, bro. $120 million to turn your daughter straight. I'll be like, honey, I'll pay you just to even say you're straight. You ain't even gotta be straight.
A 100-year-old naked woman. Because in 2015, a painting of a nude woman was being auctioned off. And even though this billionaire knows nothing about art, he was so down bad, he was willing to overpay by $70 million for a total of $170 million. After he hung it up in his wall, do you think that would be the most expensive nut ever. But that's still not as weird as an entire cursed pyramid that this next billionaire bought. And why he decided to buy it is even crazier. It all began when the city of Memphis decided to build this giant creepy pyramid. And as soon as they started construction in 1989, things took a turn for the worst. Torrential floods destroyed parts of the pyramid, delaying construction. People were falling off of scaffolding, causing further delays. And there were even reported deaths. But they still continued to turn the pyramid into an event arena. And after they finished construction, they hosted a concert on opening night. Everything was going smoothly until halfway through the concert, all of the toilets exploded, flooding the entire pyramid with sewage. They continued to have events for years, but people eventually found out that there was some weird stuff at the top of the pyramid.
No one would go there anymore because of deaths and flooding and electrical problems and everything else you can imagine. And there was a skull up in the top, a crystal skull, a little demon monkey, little goblin charms hidden up in the capstone and a little metal box.
So the pyramid was abandoned and nicknamed the Tomb of Doom. The only thing remaining was the cursed crystal skull at the top. No one wanted to touch it for years, until billionaire Johnny Morris had the crazy idea of turning it into a giant Bass Pro Shop.
Oh.
Love the pool.
They're messing with.
He wanted to include things like a full lake on the inside you could fish out of, and a giant elevator that would take you to the top of the pyramid. But considering the place was cursed, he just couldn't decide if he should buy it. So he left the decision up to a fish? No, really. He went out fishing with his buddies on the river next to the pyramid and said, "If I catch one of the biggest catfish of my life, I'll buy the pyramid today. But if I don't catch anything good, we won't buy it." And 10 minutes before they were about to leave,
He is a giant! My gosh, look at this fish!
he caught one, and it was massive. So a literal fish ended up making the decision to buy this pyramid for $215 million. And today, the mega shop is alive and well. So people believe this catfish ended the curse. But this next billionaire literally bought the Titanic. No, not the one at the bottom of the ocean. This dude wanted to make an exact replica called the Titanic 2. Not only is it gonna look like the old Titanic, but the Titanic 2 is gonna go in the same route where the original Titanic sank. With all that modern equipment though, I don't think it'll sink, unless the name is cursed. But this dude's obsession with the Titanic set him back a staggering $567 million. Now that might seem like a ridiculous amount of money, but that's not even close to the weirdest thing a billionaire has ever paid for. Because I bet you didn't know, in 2019, Michael Bloomberg was running for president, which is crazy, because he spent more on advertising than all the Democratic candidates combined. His campaign only lasted 3 months, but somehow, in 3 months, this man spent over $1 billion on ads for his campaign. And still, no one knew he was running. It was the biggest waste of money ever because after he spent $1 billion, he got roasted so hard that he gave up.
I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg.
Our campaign today for the presidency ends.
Bro, hey, they spend too much money on these stuff, bro. Like, forget that, bro.